What is going on, everybody? My name is Jeff Lightsy Jr. here with the Black Boss Channel. Thank you guys for tuning in. I have a special guest in the house tonight. This is the one and only Professor Kaba Kamene. Professor Kaba, how are you doing, sir?
My brother Jeff, thank you so much for this opportunity. I am doing supreme, brother. How about with you and yours?
I am all good this way, all good this way. I am just happy to be in your presence tonight. I know we're going to get a good lesson, something that we can all learn from. And that's the most important part. Once again, this is Professor Kaba. Now, for Professor Kaba, for those in our audience who may or may not know some of the work that you do, or maybe not know who you are, just if you can give us a brief introduction to who you are and what is some of the great work that you do.
Brother Jeff, and to the family, my background is in education. I'm an educator. I've been an educator since 1977, and I retired from my educational career as it relates to the New York City Board of Ed after 31 years. I and then but simultaneously I was teaching college too.
Mm-hmm.
But the point that I'd like to make is that I've taught every grade from pre-K through college, and I've taught every subject as it relates to interdisciplines like middle school, high school. My background basically is social sciences, which is geography, history, politics, economics, and social. But what I really do more than anything else is I write curricula
Hmm.
and I develop staff development and community development programs to present the information to the community as to where we should be educating our children. I'm focused on our children, Brother Jeff. Number one is our children.
Yes, sir.
Because my background particularly is in early childhood, because that was my first license. My first license was in early childhood. I began as a kindergarten teacher. And if you ever want to know yourself, really know yourself, hang around 5-year-olds for a while. They're too pure not to tell you about yourself. They'll read you better than psychologists.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man, that's where I go. And then I visit the various places around the country where I can support the community, homeschoolers. I do a lot of work with homeschoolers, independent African-American schools, setting up the curricula, helping the parents understand how they can support what's going on in the classroom.
Yes, Professor Cobb, and that's exactly where we're going tonight. We're going to be talking about, education, the children, teaching your own children, teaching our kids specifically for our people. Now, Professor Cobb, as someone who worked in the education system for so many years, why is it that you find it important for Black folk to educate and to teach their own children?
Bottom line is this, my brother Jeff, and to the family, it's something I considered Professor John Henry Clark to be my teacher.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to use the word mentor, the person that I went to for information, people that he was the person that I could call. And the one thing that he told me, particularly when I got into the educational field, because I first met him when I was 12 and a half.
Wow.
It wasn't until later when I started developing myself and going into areas where I was about to choose colleges, choose where I was going to go in life, that I came to him for recommendations, for support. And the one thing that he told me is never forget one thing. After you have learned something, the purpose of you learning it was to empower yourself. And if your information is not empowering you, it ain't education. This civilization, Jeff, this culture that we're in, this America and family, you can see what's going on around you right now, where we're headed. My bottom line is simple and straightforward. They will not educate your children. Their purpose is to miseducate your child. As someone who's been in the system and paid the price for the work that I've done with our children, I'm telling you, they sent me to the principal's office as frequently as they sent the child. Because they always had a problem with what I was teaching the children, but they could never get me because it always related back to the issue at hand in the classroom, be it math or science or whatever I was teaching, I could find a way to bring it back into culture. And that is what I bring to the community to now, is how we can teach the very things that we teach in school, math, the main 4 areas, which is called math, science, social studies, and language arts. Those are the 4 main areas. And then you have physical education, arts and crafts, music, things like that. But I could always relate back. I could teach math using the pyramids. I could teach symmetry, which is a concept that borders both art and math. Symmetry is balance. Art is balance.
Mm-hmm.
And so I could teach math using art, and I taught art using math. And they could never get me because they were trying to just say, oh, all he's doing is teaching about Black people. No, I wasn't just teaching about Black people. I was teaching them principles that even you can't teach. And not just that, all of my children did very well when it came to anything that they were asked to do. So they couldn't tell me that I was disrupting the educational process. And that's what I try to teach. Hey, Brother Jeff, I tell people I'm the spook who sat by the classroom door.
Oh, man.
And now I've come back to the community to work with our community to understand how we can make this happen. This is possible. And it's important that we understand this. Educating our children and allowing them to master the different areas is not only possible, I did it. And that's what I try to tell the community. I'm not coming to you with a bunch of theories about what I read. I'm telling you, I was on the front lines for 31 years in New York. I was in the front lines in college for 14 years. And I've been in the process for 44 plus years.
Wow.
I've developed parental programs, community programs, church programs. I've been there for the community and understanding what we can do with the children because, Brother Jeff, our children are our future.
You're right about that. You're right about that.
And that's not an exaggeration. And as we do libation to all those that came before us, I ask us, what will our children say about us 100 years from now?
Mm.
And when they call our name in remembrance of the things we've done, what will they say about us? I'm sorry, brother. I ain't going out like that. The mark I leave is a mark of excellence, not so much me, but them. Our children are ready, Brother Jeff. I'm telling you, I've seen them. I've been with them. They're ready to make this happen. They thirst for it like a dry sponge. They want this. The mind craves order and arrangement. They want this.
Yeah.
The question is, do we, as the adult population?
Wow, Professor Kaba. Once again, we're talking to Professor Kaba Kamene. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe. Now, Professor Kaba, you spoke about the miseducation of our children that takes place in the school system. What are some of those miseducation pieces that take place, and what are the things that you are helping parents, Black parents across this country, reinforce and helping them replace some of that miseducation that takes place in the public school system?
My thing is, I ain't wasting my time with them no more. I spent my time in the system. I'm not trying to get them to embrace us. I'm not trying to get them to accept CRT, which they don't even know what they're talking about when they say CRT. CRT, for those that may not know, basically is an advanced course in law school that speaks of the inbred concept of supremacy of a people over another people. It's a course where you learn about that in law school. It has nothing whatsoever to do with teaching children. You don't teach children CRT. It's just not done. And so I don't want to get involved in that. But not only that, Brother Jeff, and to the community, I don't want to talk to them. I've done presentations where I've told them, I don't want to talk to you. And I do not want to teach my legacy to you. I'm not putting my sacred legacy in your contaminated hands, especially not to teach my children.
Hmm.
You can't even teach the children you went to school to learn how to teach. How you going to teach something you don't know? You don't even know who you are. How you going to teach me? I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the community. That's why I'm with you now, brother
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes, sir.
I am here specifically and exactly to speak to our community, to help them understand beyond a shadow of a doubt. As someone who's been on the front lines of education, this not only can be done, it is being done. And not just by me, but by brilliant brothers and sisters across the country and other parts of the world that are doing magnificent work with our children.
Hmm.
But sometimes when you're inundated with all that we're experiencing, sometimes you don't see, because you don't see the forest for the trees. And so what I'm attempting to do is ask us to step back for a minute and not just see the forest for the trees, not just see the trees for the forest, see the trees that are in the forest. And in terms of your question, what we have to do is educate our children for the future. We're not teaching our children for the future. I'll give you an example.
Hmm.
I had a student in college. Oh, this sister was brilliant. She double majored, electrical engineering and African American studies. Double major. When she graduated, she could only find a job as a secretary in a veterinarian hospital. Now,
Whoa.
that's not to defame a secretary in a veterinarian hospital. That's a very important position.
Hmm.
And I respect anyone that would be a secretary in a veterinarian position. But when you've spent thousands of dollars and 4 years to become an electrical engineer, there should be a job for you
Yeah.
when you graduate.
Yeah. You think
And
so?
not just that, but somebody that doesn't have your qualifications, you took their job. Because there are people who enjoy secretarial skills. There are people who love animals. And there's people that would love to be a secretary in a veterinarian hospital. You took their job from them. So there's two problems here. You're doing something that you did not go to school for, and you're taking a job from somebody who is highly qualified. So solar power is the future wealth of the planet. And we've got to begin to develop a program of study for our children to introduce them to what's called photovoltaics, which is the electricity that comes from light. Photo, light, electricity, electricity. And so what we have to do is begin to look at this. And I'm just coming back from the DC area doing a weekend seminar with the community there on this topic. We
Hmm.
did 2 days where I laid out a concept of how, first and foremost, go back into our culture so that we know that our ancestors, particularly Akhenaten of the 18th dynasty, understood and knew the principles of the sun. He and his scientists wrote a treatise that's called the Aten text that outlines the power and majesty of the sun. And that's the same thing you learn when you study solar power. Same exact thing, but it's told in figurative language.
Hmm.
The next day, we went right into the future of solar power. We talked about wind power, wind turbines. We talked about water power. And the one thing we talked about is we're going to get up off these fossil fuels.
Yeah.
You can see it now. You got the hybrid car, then you got the electric car, then you've got the solar cell that they're working on, and that's going to be the future. Everything that you derive your energy for this computer, for the lights, for your car, for your stove, for your refrigerator, for your washing machine or your dryer. Everything that you use electricity for or energy will be harnessed by the power of the sun. But you see what the problem is right now? The system that is trying to dominate you, they don't know how to charge you for it because the sun is free for everybody. And if you create solar panels and put it up on your roof, Even if you live in a thatched house, if you put solar panels up on your roof, you will derive the power and you have to pay nobody for that. That's a problem. They make money fossil fuel. They can make money wind power, natural gas, all that. But they ain't gonna make no power on solar power. And not just that, we need black folk with an inventive mind to come up with how we're going to do solar power. Because the way we're doing solar power now, it has its place. Great introduction. But when black folk get a hold of it, we're going to take it someplace else, just like we take it all the way. We'll do in solar power what Michael Jordan did on the basketball court, or what Tiger Woods did on the golf course, or what the Williams sisters did on the tennis court, and particularly what our sister Simone Biles did in gymnastics. I call it the Simone Biles effect. Sister Simone is so dynamic that she was going to do an event, and they say, you can't do that. And she said, why not? She said, because we can't do that. And if you do that, you're going to raise the bar so high, we will never be able to be part of gymnastics again. So you can't do that. So guess what sister did? She did it anyway. And they said, well, we're not going to officially recognize it. But who cares? You set the bar, brother. The bar is set.
Yes, sir. They doctor for it.
We're going to do this in education. That's what I want us to understand. We're going to do this in education. We are going to be able to take education to a level where those who think they know something will never be able to catch up to it. They will not be able to test our children because our children will be more intelligent than them. I'm just saying.
I completely agree with you. Once again, we're talking to Professor Kaba Kamene. If you haven't noticed already, the brother knows his stuff. He brings it all the way. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, and subscribe. Now, Professor Kaba, I want to ask you this. Now, you talk about our people. We know that there is a dominant society. But we know that in order to get where we need to go, we need to continue to educate ourselves, educate our children, and things like that. I want to ask you about just melanated people in general. How do you see Black people? What kind of state is Black people in America kind of in? And what do we need to do to right the ship and get to where we need to be?
We must forgive ourselves, first and foremost, for all that we have experienced in our life. We all have history. To survive in the projects where I grew up, to survive in the communities where so many peoples of African descent have developed, we have had to adapt a way of living. As we mature, we look back on that and we have our regrets. Have no regrets, because everything that you did has brought you to where you are right now. I see well, let me put it to you like this. You know, Brother Jeff, they talk about this idea of crabs in a basket. You know, they talk about that when one of us gets to the top, there's another one that will pull them down. Okay, that's one way of looking at that story. But let me give you another metaphor for that story. Because if you were to take that basket of crabs and return it back to the waters where they came from, crabs actually help each other. Crabs stack themselves on each other, and the one that's closest to the food will eat. And when the one that is eating has dined sufficient, it goes to the bottom and pushes the group of crabs up so that the next one eats. And when that one does, it goes down and puts the next, and the third one eats. So the point that I'm making is that a natural organism, let me say it again, it is natural for a natural organism to act unnatural when that natural organism is in an unnatural environment. Return us back to our source, we wouldn't act like that. Now, I know that we have our saints and we have our sinners. So I'm not saying that we're perfect. Vice and problems and jealousy and envy, that don't have a culture. That's in all of us. It has always been in all human beings. The question is, what you going to let pronounce most in your life? And there are those of us who, despite our environment and what we go through, we still are able to do what crabs do in their natural environment. And so for those brothers and sisters who are acting inappropriate and unnatural, I'm not giving you excuses, but I do understand the reasons. But nature doesn't have mercy. I gave you a set of cards. That's what nature tells us. And I've given cards to people that's a bad hand. And I've given some people an excellent and good hand. And I've seen people that got a bad hand win. And I've seen people with good hands lose. So the moral to the story, Brother Jeff, is that it's not the cards in life that you're given, it's how you play them. And we as a people have got to come to that. I love our people unconditionally. I don't care if you pimp, prostitute, gang banger. I don't care where you are in station of life. If you are Black in America in 2021, going into 2022, I ain't got nothing but love and respect for you, because you're a walking miracle, because you're not supposed to be here right now. It was never destined for us to be here, Brother Jeff. And it's hard for sometimes for us to understand this. We're supposed to be dead, crazy, in prison, or back in Africa. They had no idea that Jeff and Brother Kaba was going to be doing a live stream on December 15, 2021. That wasn't in the cards. And by the way, I understand why they forbid us from reading. Because here we are. Their problem was somebody got a book. We were blessed to be able to read and to develop a sense of literacy. But the other thing that Frederick Douglass once said in his autobiography, he said the very best thing that happened to him in life was the very worst thing that happened to him in life. He said when he learned to read, it was the best thing that ever happened to him. But after he read and became aware of the conditions he was in, it was the worst thing that ever happened to him.
I could definitely see that. I could
definitely being intelligent and oppressed.
Man, oh my goodness, Professor Kaba, you are bringing it tonight. Now, Professor Kaba, I want to ask you this. We're speaking about education. We're talking about solar power. And I'm going to get to solar power some more in a minute. But I also want to talk to you about the Black family. How important is it for the children, the ones we say are the future, that we know, not just say, that we know is the future? How important is it for the children, or do you believe it is important for the children to have both parental figures, mom, dad, nuclear family, I guess is what they call it now, to be in their household, to be able to educate themselves and develop properly? Do you see that as being very important?
That's ideal, but what we need is balance. What I've always attempted to be with my son's friends and even some of my daughter's friends, I try to be a male representation. Remember, on the plantation where Kunta Kinte was, Fiddler was his father, in a sense. When in our experience did we ever have daddy? It was never meant for us to have a father. Because if that father had the authority to be a father, it meant that we would listen to him before we would listen to the European in the big house. It was never meant. And if a man took a position of strength on the plantation, he was either killed or sold. When in our existence have we ever had a nuclear family? So it is very important. And many of the things that we're experiencing because of the lack of that balance, it would be wonderful, mom, dad, but so many of us don't have mom and dad. When I first started teaching, brother, back in 1979 in New York, I started teaching 77 in Gary, Indiana. I taught high school. But when I came to New York, back home to New York, I taught and got my license in early childhood. And I was a kindergarten teacher in the beginning of my career. I could write a book on how many children, male and female, and of many various cultures, as their teacher, they say, "You look like my daddy. I wish you were my daddy. Can I call you daddy?" To which my response was, "I am your daddy." I didn't bring you into the world. But there's an African tradition that every adult male is Baba and every adult female is Mama. You are responsible for me. My bad. I am responsible for you as long as you're in my care. And if there's anything that I can do there, let me know. I could write books on my conversations with my 5-year-old. And you know something else, Jeff, that I learned was when you're 5 and 6 years old, you live in a very special world and you don't let adults in. And one of the greatest honors that an adult can receive is when a 5-year-old is willing to bring you into their world and talk to you about their experiences, be it first grade, second grade, third grade. I've had those experiences. Our children are wonderful, brother. Now that I am doing this work, I am no longer directly in a classroom like I was when I was working on any level. I do get into classrooms now as frequently as I can, but not like I used to. I really miss that interaction with children, but I don't miss the system. The system is contaminated. It is corrupt. It is a multi-billion-dollar business that is purposefully miseducating the children. They have no, and not just that, even their own children are going into their classrooms and shooting each other up because they know somebody's been lying to them for generations. That's the ancestors in them pissed off. Because guess what? Melanated people are on the rise and ain't no stopping us. And they know their time is up. That's why they're willing to lie, steal, cheat, and tolerate those that do. We must get this together. We have to do this. Dr. Clark has a presentation on YouTube. I encourage all of us to check it out. It's titled, "You Ain't Got No Friends." I support us. Anybody black doing anything black, I'm black first. I'm with you. If you want reparations, I want reparations for you. I've done presentations on reparations. But I got to tell you something, fam. Even if we got reparations, that ain't nothing but crumbs. That ain't nothing but crumbs. Who am I to tell you what my great-great-great-grandparents who were enslaved, what their lives are worth? What dollar amount can I give you? Can you give me that will solve that problem? I don't want reparations. I want America. I hope you can get to that. I don't want the crumbs off your table. I want to own the block that the bakery's on that baked the cake. Don't give me your crumbs. And don't tell me about how you support me. Because the moment you support me, you make me unequal to you. Because if I don't have your support, that means that I'm not going to function. If I need your support, that means that I need you. And if I need you and I don't have you, I cannot do anything for me. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us very straightforward. We must do this for ourselves. Once and for all, let's get that in our head. Don't look outside for anything else. And please cast aside your white God and embrace your African spirituality. You are free. It's not that you will be free, could be free, should be free. You are free. Dr. Clark said that when they can make you leave your God and respect theirs, they don't need to put chains around your arms and legs. You're already enslaved. You are the creator having a human experience. Don't ever forget that. You don't have to look out there for Jesus. You are Jesus. You know, I did a presentation one time, Jeff, in church. Sister said, Okay, I just want to know one thing. Is Jesus Christ your Lord and Savior? And I said, yes, Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. Other questions came in. Then there was a brother came. He said, Brother Booker T, that was my name before I corrected it to Kaba. He said, bro, I came here to hear you, brother. He said, but I'm real disappointed because I would never think that I would hear you say that Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior. With all that you teach, how could you possibly think that Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior? And I said to the brother, and I was also talking to the sister, I said, okay, well, fam, there was something very important that neither one of you asked me. Both of you, from your own background, assumed what I was saying to you without asking me one question, which is the cornerstone to understanding my response. Neither of you asked me who to me is Jesus Christ. I am Jesus Christ. I am my Savior. And so each and every one of you who's listening to this program, and you also, Brother Jeff, you are your Lord and Savior. Jesus saves those who save themselves. Each and every one of us is the creator having a human experience. You were born with every answer to every question. In fact, you were born with every answer, even to questions you may never ask in your lifetime. You don't need to go outside yourself. You don't need anybody outside yourself. Now, that's not to say that other people cannot do things that will enhance and embellish your life. Yes, we can. But the greatest educator cannot teach you anything. The greatest educator can only facilitate you coming to realize that you already know it. Here's my example, Brother Jeff. Everybody right now, you in the dark. You can't see anything. And then all of a sudden you find the light switch. You see the chairs, the table, the television, the computer, the art on the wall. My question to you is, did all those things appear in the room when you turned the light on? No, they were always there. Your light just wasn't on.
Wow.
You got everything you need, fam. And the closer you get to the creator, the closer the devil will get to you. You only have one enemy. And that enemy is the negative force within you that is stopping you from achieving your greatest divine goals. Everything else outside is an obstacle. Every one of us is born with a Judas and a Messiah. The Judas's job is to make sure you never reach your divine goal. The Messiah was born within you to make sure Judas fails. Judas falls 9 times, but your Messiah will rise 10. And still we rise, family. Look at how glorious we are, how great we are with everything that has happened to us. We're on the Black Boss channel. What more need be said?
Hey, Professor Kaba, you got me. I feel like I want to shout or scream or something. This is. I guess it's that energy that's being put out there. What's good? We're talking to Professor Kaba, and we're just having a great conversation right now. We're talking about educating our own people and talking about educating our children, but at the same time, we're just two black men chopping it up, talking about black issues. Now, speaking of black issues, Professor Kaba, I want to ask you. You speak about having the Jesus in you and everything that someone has is within them. But we get a lot of times in America, we get people blaming politicians or blaming policies. Kind of what is your thought on expecting someone like a Joe Biden or a Kamala Harris or whoever to essentially come save you and people being upset when they don't come save you? What's your thoughts on that?
That is the religious complex, but it's just done on a political level. That's political religions. See, we're developing, you see, the way in which the system was set up, not just in America, but in Europe. When you look at the feudal system, This is the feudal, this is a sophisticated feudal system that we're experiencing now. And what it basically does is that it makes the individual always look outside of him or herself for what they need to survive. When the real discussion that needs to be had with children is you have everything you need to do whatever it is that you need to do. And like I talked about the cards in life, sometimes you're given cards that make it easier for you to achieve your goals, and sometimes you're given cards that make it a little bit more difficult. But it doesn't make a difference what cards you get. You have to be able to do it, so good or bad. And that's what our ancestors did on the plantation, family. When I have a dream that I'm having it hard, I wake up and apologize for even having that thought. What our ancestors went through, I stand before them every day and I just ask them in my libation, just in my conversations with our ancestors, and I talk to the ones that I don't know their name. You know, we can call out the ones that we know, the ones that have arrived in a position in life, but there are millions of Africans that we are related to. Family, check this out. Thanks to ancestral footprints that shared this concept with me, we did the math of the ancestors. And when you're thinking about like how many ancestors you have in mathematics, it's called exponential expansion equations. You have 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, and on down the line. Let's say we're saying a generation is 20 years in length. And let's go back 20 generations. We're talking about 400 years. You go back to the year 1621. And you ask yourself, how many human beings did it take to bring me into existence right now, December 15th, 2021? Let me give you the number by mathematics. 1,048,576 human beings existed to bring each and every one of us into existence today. You think you're alone? You think you walk alone? Do you know how many stories of joy and pain, success, love, disappointment, jubilation that dwells within you? Family, I honor my ancestors every day. And for what they went through, I do what I do. It ain't over till we win. I don't do what I do for my ancestors. I do what I do through my ancestors for the children yet to be born. Because what our ancestors, they don't need me to do anything for them. They already did it. In fact, what they did for me. I pass it forward. I pay forward for them, through them, because of what they were willing to do. They knew they wouldn't be free in their lifetime. They knew they wouldn't enjoy that just by their daily life. They knew that they would live and they would die under those conditions. But there was something else they knew. They knew if they just kept on keeping on, somebody would be free. And when they had those thoughts, going back to 1621 and that 1,048,576 people that brought us into existence, when they thought that thought about their freedom, they were literally spiritually manifesting us into existence in 2021. And so what we have to do is we have to pay forward by spiritually manifesting the children that will exist in 2121 and never give up. They don't have what it takes to take what I got. And I'm not just wolf tickets, Brother Jeff. This ain't no wolf. This is evidence. I'm still here. And even if the Creator should choose to bring me home tomorrow, I still kept on keeping on. And I fought a good fight. And I stayed dedicated to my purpose. And what is your divine gift? I'm speaking to everybody. What's your divine gift? You were born with something real special. That's why you're here. You're here because you got something special, different than anybody else. Could be in the same area, but it's different. You do it your way. They do it their way. And we spend so much time looking at other people trying to be like them, we don't realize what we're supposed to be. Who are you? What were you meant to do? What is your passion? The question is, what do you love to do for free? And what you love to do for free probably is your passion. And you do it so good, people will probably pay you for it. So that's how you're going to survive.
Once again, we're talking to Professor Kaba. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe. If you have any questions for Professor Kaba, we're going to use the last few minutes of this broadcast to ask any questions from the audience. Any questions from the audience, please put them in the chat. We will ask Professor Kaba and get to as many as possible. Now, Professor Kaba, we're in the last few minutes before we get to the Q&A. I do want to ask you, I love these things. These things are motivational. They inspire people. They make people want to do more. It makes them want to do better. But you spoke about doing things and teaching the children and making sure we're prepared for 2121. Well, I wanna scale it back a little bit to 2050. I know a lot of people have their different plans, 100-year plans, 50-year plans, but you were very adamant about saying that, melanated people will be running things in the educational system and in different parts of this country. One, what makes you so confident in that? And if we're going to do that, what do we, the people, the melanated people who are here now, need to do to prepare ourselves or to educate our children to make sure by 2050 2070, 2050, 2121, that they are where you predict that they will be?
Because if we don't, ain't none of us going to be here. We will either do it or we'll perish. We ain't got a choice. We may think we have a choice, but we ain't got a choice. All we're doing is procrastinating what we know we have to do. And procrastination is the thief of time. And time is the most precious thing we have. You can lose all your money. Your houses can burn down, but you can make more money and you can build another house. You can get more sneakers. You can get more clothes. There'll never be another December 14th, 2021 again. How you spent yesterday is very important. Time is the most precious thing you have. Don't waste it. And recognize the conditions that we find. How long do you want to live like this? How long? That's my only question. How long do you want to live like this? Where you have to depend on other people for what you need. And I understand, family. We all, by matter of degree, need support. And I understand that because of the way the system works. But how long are we going to allow it to happen that we have to live under these conditions where we have to depend on other people for what we should be doing for ourselves? That's what Marcus Garvey told us. That's what Elijah Muhammad told us. That's what Noble Drew Ali told us. That's what Malcolm X told us. They've all said this before. It's not anything new. But because of this political religious thought process, we think that somebody's going to free us. We need to elect somebody to do something for us, not realizing that we can do this ourselves. And we've done it before. That's the other thing. We've done it. The Nation of Islam is a perfect example of an organization on its way to greatness. The Moorish Science Temple is an excellent example of a classical African civilization. What we did on the plantation, you see, brother, we don't have to go back to ancient Egypt for a classical African civilization. The brothers and sisters on the plantation were a classical African civilization. They may have been enslaved, but they were royal because look at what they did. And no matter what, fam, thank you to all of those peoples of European descent that helped us on the Underground Railroad. But we were on the Underground Railroad long before you got on board. Black folk wasn't waiting around waiting for Europeans to help them.
Preach.
They were on the Underground Railroad long before it happened. Sir. Again, thank you for your participation. Thank you for what you did. I recognize that and I appreciate that. But fam, we did that. And we did it so good, they jumped on board because they saw our success. And so we have got to do this. And to that end, in education, what I've done, Brother Jeff, is I've developed a series of webinars, of which one was put up. Yes, I do a webinar every Tuesday. You can go to my site, www.kabakamene.com, KABAKAMENE.com. You download my free e-course and study guide. And on there, you'll be able to see some of the products that I have and how you can come on my webinars. I do a webinar every Tuesday. I do a webinar every first Sunday of the month on the book that I wrote, Shabaka Stone. And I do a webinar every third Friday of the month. I'll be doing one this Friday. Because you see, we got a lot of discussion around who the original Americans were. Everybody ripping and tearing at who the original Americans were. And so I've got about a 10-part series that's going to run deep inside that. And I'm going to show you the evidence of Africans that came to America thousands of years ago. And I'm going to show you evidence of the indigenous people that we see today are not the original people. They are indigenous and they were here when Europeans came. But the first people that Europeans came in contact with were black.
Big on it.
Science, man. And so the webinars answer that question the first Sunday of the month and the third Friday of the month. And the webinars is educational methodologies. People who want to know, just your question, people who want to know how to educate the children, the webinars are for you. I deal with educational methodology. My webinars deal with content information, but my webinars teaches us how to teach. The webinars teach what to teach. Two separate things altogether. You could teach somebody about Africa through a European methodology, they'd learn nothing. You could teach European history from an African perspective, and they would learn. Because method sometimes is as important. In fact, there's a Moorish proverb that says, once you've set out to learn something and you have learned it, what you've learned you can put to the side, because it was the process of you learning it that was the true education, which means that you're building up your neurons. I did a whole piece, webinar, on brain anatomy, learning and teaching. Webinars are quick webinars, about 20 minutes to a half hour. Don't try to get too deep, but very concentrated. But I don't do it long. Webinars are like an hour and a half to 2 hours long. And also, I've written 3 books. When we talk about spirituality, my first book is on William Leo Hansberry, who is the architect of the African Studies program in accredited colleges. You talk about Black Studies programs, African Studies departments. William Leo Hansberry developed the first one in 1922 at Howard University. So I wrote a book about his life so we can understand what that brother did to get us to where we are today. My second book is titled Spirituality Before Religions. Spirituality is unseen science. Science is seen spirituality, because we got to clear this up. Because in this book, I don't say nothing about any religions. Don't try to put no religions down, because I got respect for religion. Because I can find your scripture on the walls of Egypt. I can show you where papyri is exactly what you're saying. Whether you agnostic, Christian, Muslim, whether you Hebrew Israelite, Zoroastrian, Rosicrucian, Buddhist, I can show you where your scripture came from an African mind. And the book is there to verify and show you the evidence of it. Because I'm not emotional, Brother Jeff. I don't want to deal with emotion anymore. Science. I want to drop it so our people can follow my thoughts as I'm working along, and that I'm not playing with you. See, because the art of persuasion comes with logic, okay, and rhetoric. Rhetoric is when you try to persuade from an emotional perspective. Logic is when you persuade from a scientific perspective. Both of them have their place. Both of them are important, and I utilize both art forms. But I lean towards science because our minds function in a way that it's logical. And then my third book was Shabaka Stone, which is the book I really wanted to write. And that is an African theory on the origin and continuing development of the cosmic universe. Family, we had such a way of looking at the world through nature. Nature was our first teacher. You want to know where you got to go back to? You got to go back to nature. And if I may just give you this concept that I always give people as a slingshot, when people always say, well, why we got to go back there? Why you got to study ancient history? What good is it to know the past? I use the metaphor of a slingshot. Okay. When you have a slingshot, you put a projectile inside the sling and you pull it back. You're not pulling it back to stay back. You're pulling it back with the concept that you are going to propel it in front of you. And the further back you pull it, the further in front of you you'll project it. So what I ask the community to do is to put your mind in a slingshot and allow me to take you back, back, and back. Because the further back I can take you in the past, the further you will propel yourself into your future. I ain't going back to the pyramids and Imhotep simply to go back there. No more than I pull back that slingshot just to stay like this. It would be a lot of pressure on my arm. I pulled you back to send you forward. When you study you see, prophets are not psychics. They're just good historians. Because when you understand the past, you can interpret your present. And when you interpret your present, you can predict the future. History does not repeat itself, but it does rhyme. And what we're going through now, we've been through a couple times around. We have changed. Those who wish to oppress us have not. So family, I encourage you to go to my Instagram at Kaba Kamene, Kaba Kamene. And there I use my Instagram as like a community bulletin board where you'll know my webinars. The link in my bio will take you there. I use my Instagram to just bring messages like when things happen. You know, I'll just come on and talk about it and just throw some ideas out. Go to my Instagram page. We have to make this happen. It's up to us. And if any of us are surprised at what's going on right now in 2021, I have to tell you, like Dr. Clark used to say, I'm surprised that you're surprised.
Once again, we're talking to Professor Kaba Kamene. You can see his website right there on the screen. It's www.kabakamene.com. That's www.kabakamene.com. Now, Professor Kaba, we did have a question. It's an interesting one. It asked you about, let me make sure I can find it. It asked you about the foundational Black American movement. It says from Woke Root. It says, Dr. Kaba, sir, how do you feel about the quote foundational Black American movement / push? Now, what are your thoughts on that? And if you need some kind of context, I can give it to you if you need some.
Oh, no, because, again, my relationship with my brother Tariq Nasheed and
yes, sir,
Hollis, and my understanding of the FBA, the Foundational Black American. My daddy was from Alabama, hence the name Booker T. And my mommy was from Boston. I am a foundational Black American.
Yes, sir.
Through and through. I've spent my life dedicated loving my people. African American, American African, whatever you want to call, Moorish. Okay, I'm with you. But I'm also a student of Pan-Africanism, Nebu Afrika. Pan-African. I repeat what Dr. Clark embedded in my mind. It's going to be Pan-African or we're going to perish. No one group is going to get out of this alone. You Puerto Rican and you African, you should look out for your people. You should look out for other Puerto Ricans. You Jamaican, you should look out for other Jamaicans. You Ecuadorian, you African, you should look out for Ecuadorian Africans. And nobody should wonder why I, as an African American, is looking out for other African Americans. Simple like that. But I would never not understand that if you are an African, you are my family. And we together need to make this happen. Together. With an understanding. You should be looking out for your people. You should be. And nobody should question why you're looking out for your people. We should be hiring our own. No problem with that. I am deeply steeped and grounded and founded in foundational Black American. But I'm a Pan-African through and through. I can't separate that. I love you wherever you come from. And I'll take care of my people, African American people. That's my responsibility. That is what I dedicated my life to. But I am a Pan-Africanist that has reached out, honored and respected Africans from all over the world. Be you speaking Portuguese from Brazil, Spanish from Puerto Rico, French from Haiti, English from Jamaica, Dutch from Suriname. I'm with you. And I stand with you. But I am a foundational Black American. And I threw away the words unashamedly and unapologetically. I'm just going to say it. But I threw them away because I ain't got nothing to be ashamed of. And I ain't got nothing to apologize for. I am what I am. I am Black first.
Yes, sir.
And if you don't like it, I understand. But that's a personal problem. Cry your river, build your bridge, and get over it. Because I ain't changing.
That's what I love to hear. Professor Kaba, I appreciate it. You taking an hour out of your night to come speak with us, come speak with the family. Once again, you can connect with Professor Kaba at Kaba Kamene. Make sure I'm not saying that wrong. KabaKamene.com. That's KabaKamene.com. You can get all the webinars, access to the book, connect with him on social media. All of those things are right there at his website. Professor Kaba, once again, I just want to give you a thank you, and all of those who are watching, give Professor Kaba a digital round of applause for sharing with us tonight. Professor Kaba, I'll let you have the last word to say to the family, and we'll get on out of here.
Family, and to my brother Jeff, thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for this opportunity to be able to share this information with our family. And what I'd like to just end with is the fact that solar power is the future wealth of the planet. And isn't it interesting that where the sun shines the brightest, the people are the most melanated? It's like the Creator put wealth in our backyard. There will be no air to put at the end of your name to be able to measure your wealth. There ain't no millionaire, billionaire, trillionaire. It will be an abundant, eternal wealth system that will need another way of judging what that wealth would be. It's just like asking yourself how much energy can come from the sun. It is there for us to always take. And please know something else, family, in everything that I say and do. I don't do this for you to believe me. Don't believe a word I say. I know what I'm saying, and I know my research. But please don't believe a word I say. My job is not to make you believe me. I'm here simply to make you think. And if I haven't been able to make you think this past hour, then I've done my job. And I'm happy to be here. I look forward to the future. Keep on keeping on, family. It ain't over till we win. All power belongs to all the people. Hotep.
Thank you so much, Professor Kaba. For those of you watching, please be sure to hit the thumbs up button on your way out. Hit the thumbs up button on your way out, and we will see you next time. Have a good night.